If you are new to this channel and enjoy the content that you see, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications to be alerted and notified whenever a brand new video is posted onto this channel, along with following me on these social media platforms to stay connected with me at all times. Also, feel free to check out all of your favorite videos and playlists located down in the description box below. Thank you so much for your continued support. Now let's begin. The future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe hangs in the balance of Fox, Comcast, and Disney, as the bidding war of who exactly is going to own the property rights of 21st Century Fox is up in the air, which include iconic characters and franchises that fans of comics would love to see be introduced in the MCU. But before a finalization could happen between 21st Century Fox, Comcast, and or Disney, there is a fine line drawn by the government in order to further regulate the property rights. Now, the government has to approve the deal made between Disney and 21st Century Fox, even though what Disney is doing may seem like they're trying to monopolize trade and property. Comcast and Disney were in a heated battle over property rights for Fox, which includes franchises like the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. Now, Disney's original price for purchasing the 21st Century Fox property rights was $52.3 billion until Comcast swooped in and offering $60 billion in May for their first bid, in which later led to Comcast upping their bid up to $65 billion on June 13th, 2018 via straight cash. And after having to realize the amount of money offered, Disney came in and upped up their bid to $71 billion, which also includes stock, in which even the owner himself, Rupert Murdoch, loves the idea and concept of selling the rights to Disney, but not if another buyer wants to come along and offer more than what the original buyer is offering, which is typical negotiation via business. But the end goal isn't just acquiring characters like Deadpool, the X-Men, and others, but more or less also compete with Netflix, as Disney soon plans to launch its own streaming service similar to Netflix in the future. Now let's put ourselves in a hypothetical situation. Let's say, for example, Disney ends up acquiring the rights to Fox in the future. Fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe would then be begging the question, what exactly is Disney going to do to further its franchise, carrying on over with Phase 5, Phase 6, Phase 7, Phase 8, and so on and so forth in the future, and introducing characters like the X-Men, characters like the Fantastic Four, and every character involved in each franchise in the foreseeable future. As an example, will we ever get to see Deadpool in an Avengers movie? Will we ever get to see some sort of crossover between the X-Men and the Avengers, which has happened in the comics before? As great as the first 10 years was for the MCU, the question lingers as to what they're planning on doing in the future by further acquiring the rights of said characters to use to further each individual story. As an example, the last 10 years have been centered around Thanos gathering the Infiniy Stones, doing things behind closed doors that affected the Avengers in one of many ways. As an example, the invasion of New York in the first Avengers film, carrying everything on over with the Guardians of the Galaxy, having to fight Ronan and gaining the Power Stone, seeing Thanos for the first time, lurking in the shadows trying to complete his mission and wiping out half the universe. By the end, he succeeded, in which everything is going to come to a culmination with the Avengers 4. But even with the Avengers 4, if Disney manages to acquire the rights before said events, can we possibly see some sort of a teaser or some sort of a foreshadowing of future characters like X-Men, Deadpool, or the Fantastic Four in the foreseeable future? That remains to be seen, as many people, including myself, would love to see characters like Silver Surfer be involved, Galactus for the first time having to fight off against the Avengers on the big screen, which only then are the possibilities endless, especially having to look at what they can do with said characters. And when having to look at what may happen in the Avengers 4, especially with the speculation having to roll around that Thanos might end up dying, which again seems very plausible and within the realm of possibility in that having to happen, even then one has to beg the question, what could they possibly introduce later on that could rival Thanos' influence on the MCU? They could always bring about Doctor Doom, Galactus, or even, as some people wanted to see, the Illuminati. Even celestial beings having to be involved like the Living Tribunal could work. However, if you're hoping that any other character, Wolverine, Deadpool, or any other is going to be making some sort of a special cameo in the Avengers 4, then I hate to burst your bubble, but that will not happen. As a matter of fact, we may not end up seeing the Fox characters such as the X-Men, Deadpool, or any other make a special appearance and or cameo until possibly after the year 2020, because we understand that Spider-Man is scheduled to have a sequel, as does Black Panther, but when asking James Gunn about introducing characters like perhaps maybe some of the X-Men or Fantastic Four characters making a cameo or an appearance, James Gunn said, and I quote, "They are too far along in development for that to even happen." So that movie comes out in 2020, and assumingly so does Black Panther and of course Spider-Man 2, which is somewhere in the range between 2019 and 2020. So if there's any special appearance to happen, it's bound to happen after Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which then only begs the question, what comes after Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which we've also learned that Adam Warlock will be involved in that film. But I do personally think that to introduce some of the X-Men characters, as many people always wanted to see Wolverine be involved, Cyclops, Storm, Professor X, even Doctor Doom, have a direct influence in any sort of Avenger film, that may end up happening perhaps maybe in the Avengers 5, in the Avengers 6 movies, once we learn about some of the villains, once we learn about what they plan on doing, as some of the directors and producers of the previous Marvel movies have went on record in stating that the realm of them bringing back older villains is possible, i.e. the only other person I could see the Avengers having to fight off once more in the foreseeable future would be someone like Ultron, as he did come back in the comics and in the animated TV show before, which I'm going to make a separate video discussing that later on. But I could ultimately see some of the X-Men having to come together in stopping the return of Ultron with having to team with the Avengers, or perhaps maybe Doctor Doom having to come about in creating his own scheme of things of destroying some of the said characters we end up seeing, or even better yet, Galactus, someone that a lot of people definitely want to see following Thanos in the MCU, in which for me the only concern would be Deadpool. Now, having to look at the profanity and the amount of violence that Deadpool introduces, if they ever do plan on introducing Deadpool in a Avenger film, or even having a crossover with Spider-Man, in which that version of the comics itself was absolutely spectacular in seeing how Spider-Man got along with Deadpool in the comics, but for such a thing to happen, they would have to severely nerf the character of Deadpool in these movies to lower the profanity and violence for audiences that are already adjusted to the MCU movies. And that, to me, I do believe is a cause for concern, because that would be altering the entire personality of one character just to suit an agenda. They can't also go ahead and throw Deadpool in any movie and expect everyone else to be very cautious with what they're saying and have Deadpool be the only one cussing up a storm, having to have sex references and so many other egregious things happen without there being some sort of backlash to the parents that do bring children to see the MCU movies for what they're worth, and not expecting to see such things happen by a character like Deadpool. So that would be a cause for concern in the idea that, okay, if Disney ultimately ends up acquiring the rights of Fox, what are they going to do with the Deadpool character? Are they going to stick by the formula in doing what they normally did with the previous two films in allowing it to be organic, or are they going to drastically nerf such a character in order to further suit the PG/PG-13 market? And with that ultimately means creating an MCU style movie which includes X-Men and the Fantastic Four by having to do a recast, and slowly, just like Black Panther, Spider-Man, and several other characters before like Doctor Strange, allow these characters to make their presence ever so slowly, but later on having their own spin-off, either involving their team or just them as singular characters like Black Panther and Spider-Man, which could later be a successful thing if done right. But even then, for the first set of crossovers, I want to know down below as to what you guys would like to see be involved, especially in the future MCU movies, as an example the Avengers, or if some of you guys want to see the Avengers fight the X-Men, which would be a very interesting concept, because you have to beg the question, where the hell were the mutants the entire time when New York was invaded by Loki, the invasion of Ultron, seeing what Thanos had done? Where were the mutants this entire time if you're planning on telling that story? Creating some sort of a centric like civil war between the two would be kind of cool to see, in the representatives of the Avengers having to clash with the representatives of the X-Men due to their ideologies. That would be a cool concept, but yet again, the only cause for concern would be Deadpool, as I don't think that they're going to replace Ryan Reynolds and using him and being the face of Deadpool, but more or less lowering the profanity and what makes Deadpool so special, and that to me is a cause for concern, unless they plan on throwing in some of the MCU characters in the Deadpool movie as opposed to having Deadpool be involved in a major Avenger-like film, or anything along the lines of even possibly having a Civil War 2, just as we saw in the comics before. So at this point, anything can happen if Disney were to acquire those rights. However, we also have to beg the question as to when these characters would be seen in these movies if they were to acquire these rights before Comcast moving forward. So in the the end, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. What are your thoughts on seeing some of the characters in future Avengers films? If you guys were to piece together and include certain characters in making cameos, who would they be and why? And when do you guys believe we're going to see the involvement of the X-Men with some of the Avenger characters? For example, Professor X, Wolverine, Storm, Cyclops, Magneto having to interact with Iron Man, Captain America if he's still around, Thor, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man. What are your thoughts on what they could do with the Fantastic Four franchise? What are your thoughts on Silver Surfer, Doctor Doom? And going forward from here, what kind of villain do you think they should introduce in the future of the MCU franchise when it involves the Avengers? Would you guys like to see some sort of a Fantastic Four crossover, some sort of an X-Men crossover? Would you guys like them to face off against the X-Men, or perhaps maybe the Fantastic Four? Let me know your thoughts down below, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button, everybody. Turn on all notifications. If you guys want to go ahead and watch more videos from me, you guys can find the official playlist down below. For me, I'm so excited for the Avengers 4 because after rewatching all of the films and after having to go back and seeing how far we've come, I really do have high hopes for Thanos' character, and I'm really hoping that this is not the last time we see him, because if it's not, then can you imagine what would happen if somehow Thanos were to come back and facing off against the Avengers, only this time they have help from the mutants, from the Fantastic Four, seeing Thanos versus Silver Surfer, seeing Thanos versus Adam Warlock, or even better, if they were to bring back characters like Ultron or even introduce Galactus. Can you imagine the possibilities of what it would be like to see our characters in action against said individuals? So that would be amazing for me, at least, but I want to hear your thoughts down below. Thank you all so much for watching, guys. Once again, tune back in for tomorrow's video, and I'll be seeing each and every single one of you guys down in the comment section below. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.